Welcome to the Langston Hughes Community Poetry Reading Celebration, looking back to move forward. My name is April Brown.
And my name is Kai Cameron.
And we are the co-directors of the Langston Hughes Community Poetry Reading Committee. I'm so glad that you're here on the Providence Public Library platform. Please let us know that you're here. Let us know that you're paying attention. Sign in, chat, because we're going to look at it later. And I want to really just thank the incomparable and the beautiful Becky Bass. Thank you so much for that musical selection. Girl, you know you bad.
Due to the impact of COVID, we have not been able to gather in the community. And this situation has caused us to change our programming and to actually make a pivot. So today is not the usual annual Langston Hughes Community Poetry Reading. This year, the community poetry reading will be held on April 24th at the Providence Public Library. And we are truly so excited about that. But today is actually a fundraiser for our youth programming. And we're going to need your help in order to make this happen. We are also here, as always, to honor Langston Hughes. February is his birthday month, as well as it being Black History Month.
And we have to keep in the tradition because in the past, we were the opening feature for Black History Month. And that really is about Langston Hughes. But we're here to give some history and some reflection on the programming and the talents that have been featured here at this event. We are actually having our own Sankofa moment. How did we get here? Well, let's get a history lesson from the Langston Hughes Community Poetry Reading founder, Ann Edmonds Clanton, being interviewed by her daughter, Tracy. We hope you enjoy it because we sure do.
Hey, Ma.
Hey, Tracy.
So first of all, I would like to say that I'm honored to be here and to be able to have this discussion with you about the birth of the Langston Hughes Community Poetry Reading. So just to open it up, why don't you just tell us, if I would refer to this as your baby, how was this baby conceived?
Well, in the early 90s, a group of people scheduled a poetry reading of Walt Whitman's of Leaves of Grass. They recruited 100 people to read the Leaves of Grass. It was awesome. It was very well organized. They, in fact, had 100 people, including the mayor, Buddy Cianci, Len Cabral, and me. It was a wonderful event. I left there thinking, oh, we could do this, meaning Langston Hughes. We could do this. Langston Hughes has a ton of poetry, and we could just do this all, just like they did it. So anyway, when I got back to the office, I kind of thought about it for a minute. I made a couple of phone calls, and the people that I asked if they would be interested in reading agreed.
And who did you call first?
Valerie Tutson. She worked at the Langston Hughes Center for the Arts. She's also a good friend. And she said with no hesitation, okay, I'll do it. And so there we began. And, it went on and on after that. The readings themselves, the first reading, there was 19 people. Now, there was a point in my life that I could read them off to you, and the readings got bigger and bigger. Like they went from 20, 25, 30, whatever. At Langston Hughes' 100th birthday, we had 100 readers, and that was a very well organized event. It was awesome.
And how do you feel? I've attended a few events, and people come up to me all the time and say, "Your mother made such a big difference in our lives." Did you know at the time that this poetry reading would have such a big effect on the community as a whole?
No, I didn't, not at all. But I understand that people did not know who Langston Hughes was, and had not read him, didn't know he was a poet. And they became interested. They liked the poetry that was selected for them to read. And the big thing about it was like standing on the podium and watching the participants come in for reading. They had a Langston Hughes book under their arm. And I thought that was like, hey man, you've made it, and they come in with a $30 book, not the $12 book. But they come in with that great big white book, the collected poems of Langston Hughes. It was a good event. And the people themselves, they made a community of themselves. They would talk to one another and share what they were reading and why they were reading it. There was a gentleman there, John Albuckle, I remember his name, who actually met Langston Hughes, and he told that story. And he was very proud to have met him. I would have been proud to have met him myself. However, if that's the way it went. And the poetry readers became a community on their own. And so that's, part of it, most of it.
And although you didn't meet Langston Hughes, you were very good friends with George Bass, who was the executor of his estate.
Yes. Well, we decided to name the art center the Langston Hughes Center for the Arts, knowing George's participation or association with Langston Hughes. We called him, and I said, "Can we do this?" And he said, "Of course you can do that." I think he was very pleased to have Langston Hughes's name in the community and for people to know who he was. George was a big help in the earliest days of the Langston Hughes Center. Whenever I wanted to do something, I called him and I say, "George, how about this?" He said, "Go for it." He was just such a cool dude. And
after the Langston Hughes Cultural Arts Center actually closed, why was it important to you to keep the poetry reading going?
Well, actually, it never occurred to me to not do it. The audience themselves may be, like I said, they wanted it. It was something, if it had not continued, I don't know what would happen to the audience itself. People would call me up and they'd say, "Ann, can I read blah, blah, blah?" Of course you can. And, when you go on and people get to know you. I'm in the market sometimes and people say, "Langston Hughes," and I wave and keep walking. Oh, that's a wonderful program. We love it. And, and it's just such a big deal, that we continued on. It never even occurred to me that it might not continue. And
so that's great. You did continue it. And I know as your daughter growing up in your house that your admiration for Langston Hughes happened a long time before the Cultural Arts Center even opened, because I had a poster on my wall and I had the knowledge that you had written the poem Mother to Son to my brother Mark. And so that is just a phenomenal feeling, knowing that all of my life Langston Hughes has been important to you, and you really did something to make his name known in the community, and it really makes a difference. As I said, when people come up to you and say, "Your mother made such a big difference in my life," that is just a wonderful feeling. And if I asked you what your favorite Langston Hughes poem was, what would you say?
I would say Mother to Son. And there are so many of them, you just can't count them. You could read one, "Oh, I love this one."
So off the top of your head, if I asked you to recite a poem right now, what would it be?
Bring me all of your dreams, you dreamers. Bring me all of your heart melodies, that I may wrap them in a blue cloud cloth away from the too rough fingers of the world.
And I know that the participation of the youth in the Langston Hughes Community Poetry Reading is also very important to you, because I know how important the youth are and making an influence on them at a very early age. So tell me about teaching young children about Langston Hughes.
Well, he had a poem called Motto. I play it cool and dig all jive. That's the reason I stay alive. My motto as I live and learn is to be dug and dig in return. You know, we said that to the kids, and I'd had them rap it, and they would rap it and snap it out, and they would come in and say, be dug in return. You know, they just loved it. And we gave all of them like a brief bio of Langston Hughes when we began. And one kid came in and said, Miss Ann, I wrote the paper on Langston Hughes that you gave me, and I got an A. He said, I really copied it. I said, that's all right, you can copy it anytime you want. And he said, I got an A. He was so happy with himself. Miss Ann, I copied your bio. And, so, that makes you happy too, when getting kids interested in Langston Hughes and poetry reading. I remember reading at Moses Brown School, and I read a poem. I've talked about the riots were going on, I think, they weren't going on, but one kid said, oh, just like New York. And I said, yeah, that's just like New York. So he said, where is that poem? So I, told him the book. He said, I'm going to get that book.
I think what you're saying is that Langston Hughes' poetry was relevant when he wrote it, and it's still relevant today.
Absolutely.
And so that's kind of cool. And it's very cool that it continues on.
Yeah.
If there was something that were just most important to you for people to know about the Langston Hughes Community Poetry Reading, or Langston Hughes in general, what would that be?
That would be to keep Langston Hughes in the community, his name and his poetry, and to make certain that people remembered him, or even if they just, quoted a line of his poetry. When we had 100 readers, that was awesome. James Munford and I worked on that, and I was calling people and asking them to read, and I told him, I said, James, we've gone over 100. He said, keep going. It was so cool. It was such a nice thing. It was held at the RISD auditorium. And, I'm very proud of the community poetry reading.
And just kind of as a side note, when you began the poetry reading, the Super Bowl used to take place in January. And then one year they decided to move the Super Bowl to the first Sunday in February, which is also the traditional date for the Langston Hughes Community Poetry Reading. So tell me, why did you not even think of switching it as you were competing with one of the biggest events in this country?
Well, the Langston Hughes was born on February 1st. So I tried to get hold of the event as close to the 1st as possible. And we usually did it on the first Sunday. We always did it on the first Sunday. And I would say, I know that it's Super Bowl Sunday, but and I was not a Patriots fan, and I would say, go Knicks, or go, Knicks is a basketball team.
Yeah,
go Giants, or go, the opposite team. And I would say, and they said, and, but we had so many people, like David Cicilline read, and I knew when he was coming. If there was a Super Bowl game and the Patriots were in it, he wasn't coming that year. But, those are the kind of people that we attracted. Judge Ed Clifton, he was a participant. People have been reading for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. I mean, they've been reading on and on and on. Some of them get tired, but not many. And if they get tired, they come back. In my church, there are a couple of people are reading. They haven't read in a while, and they keep saying, Are you still doing it? I said, yes, we're still doing it. And they're very happy. I'm the 20th. This guy came with me. He said, Ann, it's the 20th. I said, are you going to go? He said, no, I'm not going to go. I said, you can come with me. But he had other plans. But, it just goes round and round and round. The community poetry reading. Langston Hughes, you see somebody say, oh, you do that reading, don't you? And the other thing about it is that we did it at the RISD Museum of Art. And, that was a organization that did not have many people that looked like us. And we were all there. We all came and we were all very proud to be there. It was prestigious, I think, to hold it at the museum. And if under any circumstances we can get back there, I think that would be wonderful.
It also exposed the poetry reading to a different audience.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
Although, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, it was a different audience, although, quite a few Caucasians came, and they were very, very pleased. Oh, this is wonderful. How long have you been doing this? It was such a good event, and it's just like, people reading, getting up. I don't know. I don't want to say they're having their 15 minutes of fame, but they sing, they dance, they read enthusiastically. It's just awesome to see them, especially when they sing some of the poetry. We have Rose Weaver and Maya Brower, and they're really good, people, that read, and so it just goes on and on and on, and I hope it continues and goes on and on and on. The poetry reading itself, we don't need little side things. Just the poetry reading is important itself.
So basically, in your mind, it's really important for, if you go through and you read a lot of Langston Hughes' poems, you'll see that a great many of them are about dreams.
Absolutely.
And so it is important to not only keep Langston Hughes' dreams alive, but also yours.
Yes.
Thank you, Ma.
You're welcome, Tracy.
Thank you, Ann and Tracy. That was fascinating. Kai, did you know about the relationship between the poetry reading and the Walt Whitman reading Leaves of Grass at the Athenaeum?
No, that was some new information for me. I think that it was interesting that started from a library, and guess what? Full circle, here we are, right here in the Providence Public Library. I think that's great.
I do too. And let's not forget, this reading also was about jazz music. And so, of course, we have the wonderful, the lovely Becky Bass gonna give us a selection. I hope you all are enjoying yourself, and I hope you all learned something. Let us see what you're thinking in the chat, because we don't see you. So that means you're not here if you're not chatting.
Amen. That's right.
The way you wear your hat, the way you sip your tea, the memory of all that. No, they can't take that away from me. The way you smile, just be. The way you sing of key. The way you haunt my dream. No, they can't take that away from me. They may never meet again. dance till 3. The way you changed my life. No, no, they can't take that away from me. No, they can't take that away from me. We may never, never meet again on that bumpy, bumpy road to love. Still, I'll always, always have the memory of the way we held your night, the way we danced till 3, the way you changed my life. No, no, they can't take that away from me. No, they can't take that away from me. Somebody way.
Go ahead.
Wow, thank you, Becky. That was great. That brought back memories. My mother used to sing that song. All right.
That
Okay.
song too.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Remember, folks, our annual Langston Hughes Community Poetry Reading will be held April 24th at the Donald J. Farish Auditorium at the Providence Public Library. And don't forget, put it on your calendar. And just so you know, also, April is officially Poetry Month.
Yeah, National Poetry Month. So we felt like that was a good day for it to be in. So let's hear from you. I don't see y'all chatting, so you know if you're not chatting, you're not really here. And we know somebody's here. So come on, let us know what you're thinking. Kai, I didn't mean to interrupt you, please.
All right, to continue with our recognition and celebration for Langston, we also want to honor you. So therefore, we're going to share with you some past presentations from the Langston Hughes Community Poetry Reading.
Please
Help us.
join us
Mhm.
as we remember.
Yep.
Let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be. Let it be the pioneer on the plain seeking a home where he himself is free. America never was America to me. Let America be the dream the dreamers dreamed. Let it be that great, strong land of love where never kings connive nor tyrants scheme, that any man be crushed by one above. It never was America to me. Oh, let my land be a land where liberty is crowned with no false patriotic wreath, but opportunity is real, is free. Equality is in the air we breathe. There's never been equality for me, nor freedom in this homeland of the free. Say, who are you that mumbles in the dark? And who are you that draws your veil across the stars? I am the poor white, fooled and pushed apart. I am the Negro bearing slavery scars. I am the red man driven from the land. I am the immigrant clutching the hope I seek and finding only the same old stupid plan of dog eat dog, of mighty crush the weak. I am the young man full of strength and hope, tangled in that ancient endless chain of profit, power, gain, of grab the land, of grab the gold, of grab the ways of satisfying need, of work the men, of take the pay, of own everything for one's own greed. I am the farmer, bondsman to the soil. I am the worker, sold to the machine. I am the Negro, servant to you all. I am the people, humble, hungry, mean, hungry, yet today, despite the dream, beaten yet today. Oh, pioneer, I am the man who never got ahead, the poorest worker bartered through the years, yet I'm the one who dreamed our basic dream in the old world while still a serf of kings who dreamt a dream so strong, so brave, so true that even yet its mighty daring sings in every brick and stone, in every furrow turn that's made America the land it has become. Oh, I'm the man who sailed those early seas in search of what I meant to be my home. For I'm the one who left dark Ireland's shore and Poland's plain and England's grassy lea and torn from black Africa's strand. I came to build a homeland of the free. The free? Who said the free? Not me. Surely not me. The millions on relief today, the millions shot down when we strike, the millions who have nothing for our pay, for all the dreams we've dreamed, and for all the songs we've sung, and all the hopes we've held, and all the flags we've hung, the millions who have nothing for our pay except the dream that's almost dead today. Oh, let America be America again, the land that never has been yet, and yet must be, the land where every man is free, the land that's mine, the poor man's, Indians, Negro, me who made America, whose sweat and blood, whose faith and pain, whose hand at the founders, whose plow in the rain must bring back our mighty dream again. Sure, call me any ugly name you choose, the steel of freedom does not stain. For those who live like leeches on the people's lives, we must take back our land again, America. Oh yes. I say it plain, America never was America to me, and yet I swear this oath, America will be. It will be great. Out of the rack and ruin of our gangsters' death, the rape and rot of graft and stealth and lies, we, the people, must redeem the land, the mines, the plants, the rivers, the mountains, and the endless plain. All the stretch of these great green states, and make America again.
All right, so Nary Simone, you want to start?
Passing love.
L'amour qu'a passé.
Because you are a song to me,
Parce que ou c'est yon chant pour moi.
I must not sing you over long.
Mwen pa dwe chante ou trop longtemps.
Because to me you are a prayer,
Parce que ou c'est yon prière pour moi.
I cannot say you everywhere.
Mwen pa dwe recite ou tout côté.
Because you are to me a rose,
Parce que ou c'est yon bouquet fleur rose pour moi.
you will not stay when summer goes.
Ou pas là encore les mois chalet aller. Now I'm going to recite it in French. L'amour qui passe. Parce que tu es pour moi une chanson, je ne dois pas te chanter trop longtemps. Parce que tu es pour moi une prière, je ne peux pas te réciter partout. Parce que tu es pour moi une rose, tu ne resteras pas la fin de l'été. Thank you, Nairi Simone, for reciting the poem with me, and thank you to our friend Fred LaFortune for helping us with the translation. Love you.
Love you too.
We too. Oh, Congo brother, oh, Congo brother, with your tribal marks. We too emerge. We too emerge from ageless darks. We too emit. We too emit a frightening cry. From body scarred, soul that won't die, we incarnate the sky. We who have no tribal marks to bear in our souls the great welts there that years have cut through skin and lashed through bone in silent cry, in unheard moan. We too. We too, Congo brother, rise. 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 We too, Congo brother, rise with you.
Listen, all you beauty makers, give up beauty for a moment. Look at the harshness. Look at pain. Look at life again. Look at hungry babies crying. Listen to the rich man lying. Look at the starving China dying. Hear the rumbles in the east. In spite of it all, life must not cease. In India with folded arms, in China with the guns, in Africa with a bitter smile, see where the murmur runs. Life must not cease, because the fat and greedy ones proclaim their thieving peace. Their peace, far worse than war and death. For this is better than living breath, free to be free. Listen, futile beauty makers, work for a while with pattern breakers. Come for a march with the new world makers, let beauty be.
Ooh, I can't wait.
When I get to be a composer, I'm gonna write me some music about Daybreak in Alabama. I'm gonna put the prettiest songs in it, rising from the ground like swamp mist, and falling from heaven like a soft dew. And I'm gonna put some tall trees in it, and the scent of pine needles, and the smell of red clay after rain, and some long red necks, and some poppy-colored faces, and some big brown arms, and the real daisy eyes of black and white, black, white, black. And I'll put white hands in it, and black hands, and brown, and some yellow hands, and some red clay earth hands in it, touching everybody with kind fingers, and touching each other as naturalists do. And that dawn of music, when I get to be a composer, and write about Daybreak in Alabama.
Spirituals by Langston Hughes. Rocks and the firm roots of trees, the rising shafts of mountains, something strong to put my hands on. Sing, oh Lord Jesus, song is a strong thing. I heard my mother singing when life hurt her. I'm gonna ride in my chariot someday. Gonna ride in my chariot someday. Gonna ride, gonna ride in my chariot someday. I am gonna ride in my chariot someday. The branches rise from the roots of trees. The mountains rise from the solid lap of the earth. The waves rise from the dead weight of the sea. Sing, oh black mother, sing, sing, oh black mother, sing, 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 oh black mother, sing, sing, oh black mother, sing, sing, oh black mother. Song is a strong thing.
tell you, life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It had tacks in it, and splinters, and boards torn up, and places with no carpet on the floor, bare. But all this time, I've been climbing on, and reaching landings, and turning corners, and sometimes going in the dark where there ain't been no light. So boy, don't you turn back now. Don't you sit on the steps because you find this kind of hard. Don't you fall now. For I still going, honey. I still climbing. And life for me ain't been no crystal stair.
There are words like freedom, sweet and wonderful to say. On my heartstrings, freedom sings all day, every day. There are words like liberty that almost make me cry. If you had known what I know, you would know why. Our land, we should have a land of sun, of gorgeous sun, and a land of fragrant water where the twilight is a soft bandana handkerchief of rose and gold. And not this land where life is cold. We should have a land of trees, of tall, thick trees, bowed down with chattering parrots, brilliant as the day. And not this land where the birds are gray. We should have a land of joy, of love and joy and wine and song. And not this land where joy is wrong. Oh, sweet away. My beloved on away.
The black clown. You laugh because I'm poor in black, in funny. Not the same as you, because my mind is dull. In dice instead of books will do for me when the day is through. I am the fool of the whole world. I am the fool of the whole world. Laugh and push me down. Only in song and laughter I rise again, a black clown. Strike up the music. Let it be gay. Only in joy can a clown have his day. 300 years in the cotton and cane, with no gain, empty-handed as I begin, a slave under the whip, beaten and sore. God, give me laughter, I can stand more. God, give me the spotted garments of a clown so that pain and the shame won't bring me down. Freedom! Old Abe Lincoln done set me free. Only a moment to smile with glee. Then sadness again. No land, no house, no job, no place to go. Black in a white world where cold winds blow. The long struggle for life. No schools, no work, not wanted here, not needed there. Black, you can die. Nobody will care. Yet, clinging to the ladder, round by round, trying to climb up, forever pushed down. Day after day, white spit in my face. Worker and clown I am for the civilized race. Nigga, nigga, nigga. scorn pushing me down. Laugh at me. Laugh at me. Just a black clown. Laugh at me then, all the world round. From Africa to Georgia, I'm just a clown. But no, not forever like this will I be. Here are my hands that will set me free. Suffer and struggle, work and fight, smash my way through to manhood's true right. Say to all foe man, you can't keep me down. Tear off these garments that make me a clown. Rise from the bottom, out of the lime slime. Look at the stars yonder, calling through time. Cry to the world that all might understand. I once was a black clown, but now I'm a man.
So we hope y'all enjoyed that, because I know I did. How about you?
Absolutely.
I know it. It was so good for us to go back and look at some of the old video and see some of the projects that we have been a part of. Since 2017, Langston Hughes has intentionally reached out to young people outside of the month of February to develop their interest in Langston Hughes. And so we're just so proud that you have hung in there with us. So we want to get back to another video that we're really pretty proud of. We want you to know that Langston Hughes was not just a writer, an artist, an activist, a world traveler, but he was also a mentor. And so many of you have asked us, why do we celebrate Langston Hughes in Providence? Well, the person who brought Langston Hughes to Providence, at least metaphorically, is George Houston Bass. And we are so excited to really amplify and celebrate that relationship. So we're going to talk to the folks who knew George Bass. And that is his widow, Ramona Bass Calovi, and his daughter, Ayanna Bass. Let me tell you something. Y'all are going to enjoy this, because I know we enjoyed it. I'm going to tell you.
Yes, absolutely.
They made us laugh and cackle. And we also want to thank our videographer, Ariel, because without him, this would not have been able to happen. So we want to do this shout out right here.
Yes.
And again, you got to put yourselves in the chat. We know that there are some folks in there who aren't making themselves known. So we need to know that you're here and that you're with us. But let's go look at the Bass interview. Thank you.
My name is Ayanna Bass, and this is
Ramona Bass Calovi, the watermelon lady.
Indeed, she is. So I'm really excited because we are working with Miss April and Miss Kai and talking about the upcoming poetry reading. But more importantly, we're going to learn some history. And I'm really happy to be able to have the conversation with you because my dad, George Bass, is part of that journey. So it's exciting to be able to learn more about, you know, I want to really know, like, how did you and him meet, and the development of its research to
performance
methodology. So
RPM.
RPM. Okay. All these acronyms. I'm not going to remember that whole thing. So RPM is good to know. But I want to know, like, how you and Dad met and like what that looked like and how it developed over time.
I was a student at Brown University, studying theater, along with some other black students. And it was a time when we had walked out of Brown University and demanded increased students of color, specifically black students, to attend Brown. And also we demanded to have increase in the black faculty. So the theater students said, we want somebody to teach us black theater, because we were already producing theater, black theater, from the known playwrights that were around in the day, Amiri Baraka and Ed Woolens, and all we knew was that the plays were in books that we could find. But we wanted somebody to teach us black theater. So the then chair of Afro-American Studies, who was called then, Charles Nichols, called up some of his friends, and the recommendation came in, invite George Houston Bass to interview for a position. So he wasn't leaving, he was really not interested. He was very much tied into the black theater and black visual arts, black dance movement in New York, and he was a good friend of Alvin Ailey. Like your dad helped guide Alvin Ailey to found his company, because Alvin Ailey was frustrated. He said, I don't want to keep dancing for all these white choreographers. So your dad said, well, found your own company. And your dad had written the first libretto for the first ballet that Alvin Ailey had choreographed. Well, he decides he will take the position as a lecturer at Brown, and he's part-time, and he's commuting back and forth from New York to Providence to teach.
What year was this, though?
So this is 1970. And he's enjoying the experience with us, and what he told us all was, plays don't come out of any book, they come out of your mind.
So the visionary part of it.
It sort of reminds me of the poem that Langston Hughes wrote, Aunt Sue's Stories, rocking the brown child on the porch. And Langston Hughes writes, and these stories didn't come out of any book at all. They came from Aunt Sue's heart and her mind. So we were guided in how to write our own plays. So one day George said, I'm going to take you out to dinner. So I said, all right, I'm tired of waiting. So I said to your dad, I said, listen, I hear you want to marry me. So when are we getting married?
Direct. All right.
And he said, well, since you already know, hey, well, let's make a plan. And that's how we got together.
What? I can't. That is the most interesting and unexpected ending to that. All right. Well, I mean, obviously, you all had a rich life together,
right?
Kids, and you know, we grew up in the arts, which was a beautiful experience. But I want to talk more about the development of the RPM, Research to Performance Methodology. Tell me more about that. What was the development of that? Why did he feel like it needed to be developed, and who inspired him?
All right. So during the years when your dad used to work as secretary for Langston Hughes, he did a lot of research for a number of things that he wrote, including this book, Fight for Freedom, the Story of the NAACP, which is inscribed to your dad. And the funny story that George would tell was that, well, you know, Langston Hughes took credit for that book, but he said, I really wrote it.
Okay, listen, it says, especially for George, who, more than anyone else, helped to write this book. Sincerely, Langston, July 1962.
But, you know, they weren't going to publish a book by George Houston Bass, so.
No, not then anyway.
Right, and it's particularly not of this caliber of history.
Mm-hmm.
So George had to do the research to get all of the facts straight.
Mm-hmm.
So this book is not about opinion. But if you read this book, you'll see a lot of inspirations that ended up in a lot of the plays that he wrote along the way. So research to performance is know your facts before you mythologize it. Because your dad was very much involved in the evolution of New World mythology, how we create myths that get people to relate to an idea that they would not relate to if they only saw it as an historical piece. They would be like, oh, please, we don't want to hear this truth. So the way to performance gives you the opportunity to create a myth about a fact.
And have folks find a thread of relatability, because when you're using your imagination and creativity, well, like you said, the visionary piece of it, it changes the narrative for folks.
Right. I mean,
even though it's still fact.
Anyway, what I'm saying, back to research to performance methodology, is that it's a guided, the person leading the research guides the questions, gathers up the facts, and then explores how do you take these facts and create a dramatic work, a performance work that gets people to have conversations about the topic. So that's
great. And so he used that, the research to performance methodology in his coursework at Brown.
Right.
And so all of the students that you said were part of the walkout and really thinking about how they wanted to have exposure to Black theater and be taught Black theater. So he used this methodology to then develop and create and teach Black theater.
Right. And he also, you know, along the way, he had a colleague at Brown, Dr. Rhett S. Jones, who was a historian.
Yeah, I have a picture of them.
Yeah, right there, yeah. And so they were colleagues, and so the research part of Rights and Reasons Theater got more enhanced through the guidance of an historian. So George could focus more on the findings of the research and transforming it into the performance work.
Right.
And then he worked with students who wrote the performance works. He didn't write all of the performance works himself.
Right, that makes sense.
So he showed his students not only the research process, but how to transform it into performance works. So there are very, this is a copy of the Langston Hughes Review, which was published by the Langston Hughes Society, because George was the chair of that. And on this cover, you'll see a picture of George with Langston Hughes on a cruise ship in 1960. They went to Cyprus and Greece, and I think they also went to Israel. So this is a picture from that cruise that they took to the Middle East in 1960. So I kind of am weaving this back to how did George meet Langston.
That was going to be my next question, because if they were on a cruise in 1960, there clearly was a story before that.
Right. So, George, as I mentioned earlier, went to Fisk University. And when he graduated from Fisk, he had been accepted at Columbia University in their mathematics department.
You know what? That makes interesting sense. Because remember, Kari, when he was young, he wanted to be a mathematician, and I never put that together until just now. But anyway, sorry.
Kari is her brother of my son.
Yes.
And so Langston Hughes was a good friend of a professor at Fisk, Dr. Anna Bontemps, who actually taught literature. He didn't teach math, but he was good friends with Langston Hughes. So Anna Bontemps contacted Langston Hughes and said, I've got a young man coming up to New York from Fisk. Perhaps you could hire him part-time to do secretarial work for you so he can support himself while he goes to graduate school. So that's how George journeyed from Nashville, Tennessee up to New York and came to stay with Langston Hughes and become his secretary. And about, I don't know, somewhere in the first year, George decided, no, mathematics is not for me. And he withdrew from Columbia University and became a full-time secretary to Langston Hughes, who was living on East 127th Street in Harlem, New York.
Do you think that his transition or interest shifted as a result of that exposure in that first year? Or do you think it was just that, what do you think? New York, I mean,
well,
a different pace for somebody who grew up in Nashville.
Different pace for somebody who grew up in Nashville was a little sleepier than it is now, but it's still the home of country western music, so it's still got a vibe. But that wasn't the vibe that your dad came with. He's the son of a Baptist minister, so
he wasn't on the speakeasies. Yeah,
he wasn't in the. No, he wasn't. He could speak easy, but he wasn't in the speakeasy. And from what I could remember from memories that your dad shared, was that Mr. Hughes had a nightly ritual. He would go walking the streets of Harlem and stop in the bars and have a drink with the people at the bar, and his dad would be tagging along with him. So they walked the streets of New York every evening, when weather permitting. And one day your dad asked Mr. Hughes, "Mr. Hughes, what did you see on our walk?" And Mr. Hughes replied, "I saw everything you didn't see." But if you think about that, you're with someone and they are getting different reflections from that experience. And if you never talk to the other person about what did you see, some people might assume that you both saw the same thing.
Or you also just assume that they saw it because you saw it.
Right.
It doesn't mean that and even if they did see it, they still might have seen it differently.
Right. Now, Mr. Hughes was a man, by the time he had settled into Harlem life, he had been all over the world. He was a merchant marine, and he's one of his autobiographies, The Big Sea, as he shipped out and went to Africa and Europe, and he worked he was a cook on the ship. So
is that where you got that idea about the
cookbook?
The cookbook?
Because Mr. Hughes was a fine chef. But he worked the cook's mess or the merchant marine ships. And I highly recommend, a lot of people know Mr. Hughes' poetry, but I think he has two autobiographies. This is one, The Big Sea, and the other one is I Wonder as I Wonder. And you can see the inspiration from his own personal life journeys of what evolved into not just his poetry, but also like the simple stories. A lot of people may know about the simple stories and how he reflects on different topics in life. And here you get research. Get back to the research.
Get back to the research. Research to performance
methodology. Right. So there's a link between what Langston had already been doing and then what your dad did, which was to formalize it into a methodology.
Go ahead, Becky. Have fun.
All right.
There it is. There it is. There it is. I won that something.
It was fabulous.
I hope you all enjoyed every minute of
Yes.
it. So now we're going to come to the meat of this situation. Kai mentioned to you earlier that this is a fundraiser, and we really do need your help. We are raising funds for our youth program, and we need your help to continue our work. We have a GoFundMe page that is attached to our website that we are launching today. And our website is www.lhughescpr.org.
And you can visit us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just look for the Langston Hughes Community Poetry Reading. And people, we really need your help. The kids need your help because as you see from the interviews and from the presentations, young people are critical and absolutely so important to this project as a whole.
We really want you to know that we appreciate you. We're trying to raise $10,000, and we're going to raise $10,000. That's what I want you to know. We thank you for being with us today to help us celebrate Langston Hughes' birthday. And before we end, we're going to do a birthday toast. Come on over here, Becky. We're going to do it. We're going to have you come in here. Come on, bring your little situation. Yes. All right. This is to Langston Hughes.
Amen.
Happy
Cheers.
birthday.
Happy
Happy birthday. Oh, yes. Okay. See?
Good.
Yeah, right.
We like that. That's
okay. See? That's all
As I
right.
drink my water.
That's all right. So we want to thank all of you for taking time out of your Sunday to be with us, to watch us look back in order to move forward. But what we also need to thank is we need to thank our donors. And so we think there's a video. There's a video that's in there, and then Becky's going to play a little bit and play us out. But, you know, come back April 24th, 2022, right here.
Public Library.
And we will have an in-person poetry reading.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Go ahead on, Becky.
Okay.
Play for
We're
the
just
people.
we're gonna do it right now.
Uh-huh.
That's what we're gonna do.
All Let's stay there for a second. keep the words of Langston Hughes alive. Go Bundy. Yay!